Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. During a speech at the European Forum on New Ideas in Warsaw on Tuesday, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that the era of naive globalization is coming to an end. He stressed the need to rebuild the national economy and reshore Poland's businesses. Our reporter Ovidiusz Nicieja is on the ground. Hello, Ovidiusz. So what can you tell us about the details, about specifically what Poland's Prime Minister had to say on the direction that the country's economy should take right now?
So the Polish Prime Minister wants to re-Polonize the Polish economy. Head of the Polish government, Donald Tusk, has said that Poland should, quote, selfishly take care of the interests of its own entrepreneurs. But also, he has said that Polish companies, Polish people, but also Polish state-owned companies should favor Polish ideas and Polish companies over foreign competition.
Today, Poland, Europe, and the entire world find themselves in a situation where we must state loudly and clearly that we will endure, we will prevail, and we will achieve success for our nation, for our enterprises, for our families, and for our citizens. Those of us who draw the correct conclusion from the events unfolding around us will prosper. And now, I believe the time has come to say, firmly and unambiguously, that the era of naive globalization is coming to an end.
And these remarks were made at the European Forum of New Ideas, which is an annual conference which is dedicated to new technologies, global trends, but also the future of Europe. And here we have a number of Polish business people, employers, and we could say that these words were met with a certain enthusiasm here on the spot. This edition of the conference focuses on the future of employment, the rapidly developing new technologies, but also the changing demographics of Poland, as well as this new era of global competition. And so the Polish government is present here. It wanted to show that it acknowledges all of these issues, and it wanted also to show that it has a solution. And the Polish Prime Minister has said that it's important to deregulate, to get rid of certain level of over-regulation. But he has also said that this Poland-first approach, this nationalistic approach to economy is also the right way forward in these circumstances. Back to you, Jonasz.
Ovidiusz Nicieja with the latest report on what Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk had to say concerning the future direction of the economy. Ovidiusz, thank you very much for joining us. Now we're moving on to our next story. European leaders have been warned not to attend Russia's Victory Day parade next month. The caution from the EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas comes after various presidents and prime ministers have expressed their desire to be present at the controversial military parade on the 9th of May. Our EU correspondent Angela Skujins has more on the who is who of Moscow's invite list.
Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico, as well as the Serbian President Alexander Vučić, have both confirmed that they will attend a controversial military parade scheduled to take place in Moscow next month. However, questions loom over the presence of the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, as well as the President of Turkey. We're expecting more updates as that invite list takes shape. So what makes this military parade so controversial? Now, the date is rooted in symbolism. On this day in 1945, Nazi Germany officially capitulated to the Russian Red Army. However, in the decades since, many critics have described the event as a propagandist opportunity for Russia to puff up its military might. This is exactly why the EU High Representative Kaja Kallas has warned EU aspirant countries such as Serbia from attending. Instead, she suggested that countries should gather in Kyiv on that day, May the 9th, to celebrate Europe Day. Many are seeing this as well as an opportunity for these allies to express their solidarity with Ukraine as it battles another year of Russian aggression. Angela Skujins from the Belgian capital for TVP World.
Speaking from the White House, Donald Trump dismissed Ukraine's request to purchase Patriot missile batteries. Talking to journalists in Washington, Trump also once again seemed to place the blame for the war on President Zelenskyy instead of Vladimir Putin. Russia launched its full-scale aggression against Ukraine in February 2022, after the earlier illegal annexation of Crimea and parts of the Donbas back in 2014.
Have you spoken to President Zelenskyy, sir, about his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles, you know. He's against... Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles. The mistake was letting the war happen. If Biden were competent and if Zelenskyy were competent, and I don't know that he is. We had a rough session with this guy over here. He just kept asking for more and more. That war should have never been allowed to happen.
In an interview with Fox News, Donald Trump's envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, commented on his recent trip to Moscow. According to Witkoff, during his meeting with Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader presented his conditions for a ceasefire deal. Witkoff also added that a deal with the Russian Federation seems to be on the horizon.
Witkoff did not say what Putin demanded in exchange for a ceasefire in Ukraine, but admitted that the agreement revolves largely around the 5 regions of Ukraine occupied by Russia. Moreover, during the interview, Witkoff went on to say that NATO and Article 5 of the treaty are a concern for authorities in Moscow. On Friday, Witkoff was hosted by Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin, where the two officials spoke for more than 4.5 hours. Following the meeting, Witkoff expressed his belief that relations between the United States and Russia are salvageable. According to Witkoff, trade and investment opportunities between the two superpowers would make for a stabilizer in the Eastern European region.
A drone strike in Russia's Kursk region killed 1 and wounded 9 more. According to the region's authorities, the UAV hit a residential building, causing a fire which spread over several floors. So far, it is not certain whether the drone came from Ukraine, as officials in Kiev are yet to comment on the attack. A total of 9 people reportedly suffered shrapnel wounds, head injuries and burns. Russian emergency services are at the site. This marks another night of strikes since Kiev, Moscow and Washington agreed on a temporary truce agreement. However, Russia regularly pummels Ukrainian cities with drone attacks, vastly outnumbering Ukrainian drone strikes on the Russian soil. Overall, since the 11th of March, when the temporary truce was agreed upon, Russia has launched over 70 missiles, 2,000 drones and 6,000 guided aerial bombs at Ukraine. Brussels is considering legal measures that would allow European companies to break long-term gas contracts with Russia without incurring heavy penalties. The European Commission is looking into using force majeure clauses, which could help companies exit agreements without paying compensation to Moscow.
This move is part of the EU's broader effort to reduce its dependence on Russian energy and cut off financial support for the Kremlin amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Despite a significant reduction in Russian pipeline gas supplies to the EU, Russian liquefied natural gas exports have increased. The EU is working on a plan to eliminate Russian fossil fuels by 2027, though challenges remain, particularly with Hungary and Slovakia, which still rely heavily on Russian energy. Additionally, the EU is exploring tariffs on Russian gas as an alternative to a full import ban, which would require the approval of a majority of member states.
Asked about further sanctions against Russia following the recent attacks against Ukraine, Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski said recent strikes indicate that Russia has no remorse over killing Ukrainian civilians. He also added that Viktor Orban's upcoming visit to Moscow indicates the Hungarian Prime Minister's, and I quote, lack of moral clarity.
Definitely, yes. Multiple ministers pointed this out in their statements. But we have one country, Hungary, which doesn't have this moral clarity we have about Putin's attacks. He's talking about peace while bombing civilians and killing children. The victim agrees to a ceasefire, and he either escalates its conditions or escalates attacks. This gives us moral clarity, but apparently not every country is guided by the same values.
Several hundred students protested last night outside the Serbian state broadcaster's offices, blocking the entrance to the building. The demonstrators blamed the public TV for coverage that favors the narrative pushed by sitting President Aleksandar Vučić.
The protesting students will remain on the streets until elections are held for the Serbian National Broadcasting Council or the Serbian state broadcaster is closed. Similar protests broke out in Novi Sad, where a group of protesters blocked the entrance to the local offices of the Serbian public television. This marks the latest major protest in a wave of unrest that's been sweeping Serbia since last November, when a railway station canopy crashed down, killing 16 people. The demonstrators believe that the structure collapsed due to poor renovation work brought on by government corruption.
And with this, we conclude our news bulletin. Please stay with us on TVP World for more latest news and updates. I'm Milan Shrevinsky. Bye for now.